morning, everyone. Welcome to the Get Licensed to Build workshop. This is a free online workshop for those who want to get their California contractor's license. Our goal this morning is to go through all the parts of the license application and to give you practical tips to help you complete it correctly. And we want to give you every opportunity to demonstrate your experience and your qualifications in order to get your California contractor's license. We also help get ready for your licensing exams and give you a link to a video that shows you exactly what to expect on your test date. Today's webcast is presented by the Contractor State License Board, the government agency responsible for regulating the California construction industry. My name is Anna Rodriguez and I am an enforcement supervisor. Joining us today is Fode Garagoslo. He's a licensing supervisor. Good morning, Fode.
Good morning. CSLB is overseen by a 15-member board that directs administrative policy for our operations. Our board is made up of 10 public members, including 1 labor representative, 1 local building official, and 1 representative of a statewide senior citizen organization, and 5 contractors. Appointments are made by the governor and the state legislature.
Please note, CSLB test centers reopened in February and they have been closed since December due to COVID-19. Applicants will have to take safety precautions on test day. That includes wearing a mask and more. We'll go into those details a little bit later. If you're watching right now on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live and want to participate, you'll need to join us on WebEx. There's a banner with a link on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. This is also where you can download the presentation to follow along. The presentation file includes clickable bonus links that appear on the slides throughout this workshop. We are going to present a lot of information today, so don't worry if you don't get it all. We will archive this video of the workshop and put it on our YouTube channel so you can go back and watch it again if needed. To ask a question, use the Q&A feature, not the chat feature, on the bottom right of your screen. Make sure you send your questions to all panelists. Finally, we tend to get a lot of questions during these workshops on how to document your work experience and what credit you can get for your education or your military services. These questions are fine, but we would ask that you wait to send us those questions until after you see that part of the workshop, because we do answer that throughout the workshop. We will go through your questions at the end of our presentation. The presentation itself takes about 45 minutes.
The information obtained during the webcast is not, nor is intended to be legal advice. While this webcast contains general information, including legal guidelines for contractor license applications, it does not contain definitive statements of the law and may not reflect the most current legal developments in the construction industry. Such guidelines communicated or discussed during the webcast are for informational purposes only. If you have questions about the application of the law for specific situations, you should contact an attorney who is familiar with the California construction law or review the 2021 edition of the CSLB publication, California Contractors License Law and Reference Book. You can download it for free on CSLB website or purchase directly from the publisher LexisNexis. There are links for both at the bottom of the screen.
So here's a list of what we are going to cover today. We will take you through the process for applying for your California contractor's license. First, who needs a license? Why get a contractor's license? What are the minimum qualifications you'll need to get that license, and what credits you might qualify for? We're also going to talk about the different types of business entities, the different CSLB license classifications. Then we'll spend a lot of time giving you tips on how to fill out your application, including how to demonstrate your work experience to meet the minimum qualifications. We'll also talk about the fingerprint requirements for a criminal background check. We will help get you ready for the exam or exams you'll need to pass in order to get your license. And finally, the other things you'll need to have in place before you get your license issued, things like bond and insurance.
First, today, we will take a look at who needs a license. Here in California, a state contractor license is needed for all construction projects priced at $500 or more. That total includes both labor and materials. The law doesn't let you break down a project into $499 pieces. It's the entire project. Also, you cannot charge an hourly rate to get around the $500 threshold. If the hourly cost times the number of hours for the job totals $500 or more, you need a contractor's license. So what is the definition of a contractor? The definition comes from the state's Business and Professions Code. In this case, it's section 7026.1. We've got a link to that code at the top of the page if you download the presentation. I will read the entire code, but pay special attention to the part we underline. A contractor is any person, consultant to an owner building, firm, association, organization, partnership, business trust, corporation, or company who or which undertakes, offers to undertake, proposes to have the capacity to undertake, or submits a bid to construct any building or home improvement project or part thereof. In other words, you don't have to do the work to break the law. You must have a contractor's license just to advertise that you can do the construction work, or even to give a bid for a construction job if the bid totals $500 or more.
So you may be asking yourself why you should get a license. Here are a few good reasons. First, you can take pride in being a licensed professional. It shows that you've taken the steps to get licensed and that you are serious about your career choice. It also allows you to make valuable contributions to your local community. Unlicensed contractors must operate in the shadows and cannot help make their community a better place to live. Next, it allows you to get paid for the work that you do. There is a value to the work done by a licensed professional. Being licensed also gives you legal options if customers don't pay you. Unlicensed contractors do not have a legal right to take someone to court to get paid because the work required a license and they weren't licensed to do that work in the first place. Also, you would be able to use the mechanic lien laws. Next, you don't have to look over your shoulder with a fear of getting caught. Contracting without a valid California license can lead to misdemeanor charges. Those caught face a first offense sentence of up to 6 months in jail and/or a $5,000 fine, and potential administrative fines that can run anywhere between $200 and $15,000. Subsequent violations can result in an increased criminal penalty and fines. In addition, you may face felony charges if you contract without a license when one is required in a state or federally declared disaster area, or if you try to pass yourself off as a licensed contractor by illegally using somebody's license number. Remember, there are no educational requirements to get a license. Also, you do not have to go to a license preparation school to get your contractor's license.
So what do you need to get your license? First, it is important to understand that CSLB does not license individuals. We license companies or businesses, also called entities. Many entities are one-person operations, but know that every entity, even a one-person operation, must have a qualifier. That's someone who has the minimum experience and is responsible for the operations of the company. Here is the short list of minimum qualifications you will need. You must be at least 18 years old. You must have either a valid social security number or valid individual taxpayer identification number, ITIN. You can qualify the license in one of two ways. First, you can qualify the license by having at least 4 years experience within the last 10 years as a journey person, foreperson, supervising employee, or contractor in the trade being applied for. Or you can also get a qualifier for the license who has that required experience. We will spend a lot of time talking about how you can demonstrate your experience on your application in a few minutes.
It may be possible for you to substitute some of your education or your technical training and your apprenticeship training for some of the required experience. We tend to get a lot of questions on this. First, CSLB will not be able to prejudge your experience. Due to the number of applications we receive and process every month, we don't have enough staff time that would be needed in order to prejudge your experience. We can only review your documentation after you have applied for your license. Next, to get education credit, the coursework must be directly related to the work that you will be doing as a contractor. Your education cannot be substituted for more than 3 years or 36 months of the required experience, meaning you will need to have at least 1 year of practical experience if you get the full 36 months of education credit. To apply for education credit, you must provide CSLB written documentation. That means we need a copy of any apprenticeship completion certificates that you have, or get official technical schools or college transcripts. Get those transcripts sent to you. You do not want to open the envelope. You need to send it in sealed. Leave it sealed and include it with your CSLB application packet. Note, high school courses will not earn you any credit towards your contractor license.
If you're looking to get education credit to meet the 4 years or 48 months of experience, you will need to get your license. This is the most important slide of this entire workshop. This is the kind of credit you can expect to receive for your education. Note that for some areas, we are only giving you averages, or you will see that your credit will be determined on a case-by-case basis. We are not going to be able to give you any more guidance than what you see on this slide. So our best advice is do not rely on the combination of your experience and education credits to barely hit the 4-year experience mark. There is always the real possibility you will not get as much education credit as you were hoping. Let's go through the chart from the most credit you can get to the least. The most education credit you can get is for a bachelor's science degree in construction management. That degree will get you the full 36 months of credit. Next is master's or bachelor's degree in business or a law degree. Any one of those will get you 24 months of credit. An associate in science degree in construction management will get you 18 months credit. A bachelor's degree in some other major will get you an average of 18 months credit. An associate degree in a major beside construction management will get you an average of 6 months credit. Credit for individual college classes are given on case-by-case basis, usually with a maximum of 6 months credit. Apprenticeship completion certificates will get you 24 to 36 months, depending on the classification on the program. For example, a sheet metal worker apprenticeship gets you 24-month credit for the C20 HVAC and C43 sheet metal classifications only. A lineman apprenticeship gets you 36 months in C7 low voltage and C10 electrical classifications only. If you have transcripts for other technical training you have taken, you might be able to get some minimal credit as well. Again, don't use your education credit to try and squeak by the 4-year or 48-month requirement.
If you served in the military, some of that service might count as well. On the bottom of the page, you'll see a bonus link to our CSLB Military Application Assistance Program. You can learn more at that link. The license qualifier also must pass 2 different exams, both taken on a computer at one of our CSLB test centers. One exam is on the California business law, and the other will be in the specific trade covered by your license. We also have limited specialty licenses, which we'll discuss a little bit later. Those licenses only require that the qualifier take 1 exam, the law and business exam only. As we mentioned, the qualifier is the one who must take and pass the required exams or qualify for a waiver. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about our waivers, only to note that you might be able to request a waiver from taking 1 or both of the exams, but it has to be in very specific situations. We recommend that you look at the CSLB website for more information on those specific situations. We have included a bonus link here at the bottom of the page. The qualifier must also undergo the criminal background check. We will go more in depth on that in a few minutes. After the license is issued, the qualifier also must be in a position to exercise direct supervision and control of the company's operations. They are also responsible for all workmanship issues. It is also important to note here that if you're trying to get a B, general building contractor license, and you hire subcontractors to work under you, you are responsible as the project's prime contractor for the work that they do.
The next thing you are going to need to determine before applying for your license is which type of entity your business will be. There are 4 types. First is the sole ownership, where the owner or responsible managing employee may serve as the license qualifier. Just about 2/3 of the contracting businesses in California are sole ownerships. Second, a corporation, where either of the current officers designated as the responsible managing officer or responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. Just under 1/3 of our licenses are corporations. A distant third is a partnership, where either of the general partners or responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. That's 2% of our licenses. Finally, a limited liability company or LLC, where a responsible managing member, responsible managing manager, responsible managing officer, or responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. About 1.5% of California construction companies are LLCs.
Now let's talk about license classifications. A contractor's license can include multiple classifications, although you must select one when first filling out your application. While there are more than 40 license classifications in California, they fall under 3 distinct categories. There is a bonus link to our classifications list at the bottom of this screen here. First, we have the Class A, or the general engineering contractors. These are the contractors who deal with fixed works that require specialized engineering knowledge and skill. A contractors are the ones that build projects such as freeways, skyscrapers, and dams. Today, there are just over 19,000 A contractors in the state. Next is our Class B, or general building contractors. This is the largest class of contractors in California, with more than 133,000. B contractors have a principal business dealing with any structure built, being built, or to be built that requires, as part of its construction, at least 2 unrelated building trades or crafts. In other words, a B contractor shouldn't take a prime contract for any project that just involves one trade other than framing or carpentry. There is no limitation on B contractors to stop them from taking on projects that only include framing or carpentry. The final classes are C, or specialty contractors. These licenses are for construction work that requires a special skill and whose principal contracting business involves the use of specialized building trades or crafts. Examples of this class would be our C10 electrical contractors, C20 HVAC contractors, C27 landscaping, C36 plumbing, C39 roofing, C46 solar contractors, and C53 swimming pool contractors. Those are just to name a few. There are also 30 limited specialty classes under the C61 classification. These include the C61/D49 Tree Service Limited class. More than 209,000 contractors hold a C license in California.
Here are the 2 forms you will need. On the left is the license application. On the right is the certification of work experience. You can get these forms on the CSLB website. There is your bonus link on the left side of the page, so be sure to download this presentation. We will give you a closer look at the different sections of these forms a little later. Okay. Now let's break down the steps of application process. First, identify who will be the qualifier for your license. That person will be responsible for exercising direct supervision and control of the company. If you are using an RME or responsible managing employee as your qualifier, determine if he or she can qualify for an exam waiver. Be aware of companies you pay to connect you with a licensed qualifier. In some cases, these qualifiers are on a different part of the state and cannot exercise the direct supervision needed, or they aren't willing or maybe even don't understand their role as a qualifier. Next, make sure you complete the correct application. There are two options: application for original contractor license and application for original contractor license exam waiver, 7065. We have got links to both at the bottom of the page.
The next step is to determine your company name. Take a look at the application for examples. Some things to keep in mind. Your name cannot be misleading or imply that you qualify for a license classification other than what you're applying for. For example, if you're going to apply for a C36 plumbing license, you cannot have the company name of John Smith Plumbing Construction, Heating, and Drywall. Corporate and LLC names must match exactly the name that you have registered with the California Secretary of State's office. The name of everyone who is on your Secretary of State registration must also be listed on your CSLB application. You can also use what is called a DBA, which stands for Doing Business As. The main thing to remember here is that the DBA name cannot be misleading, and you must use that name in all advertising and on all of your contracts. Next, you'll want to get together certifications to support your work experience. You should do this even if you apply for an exam waiver. Feel free to use multiple pages if needed. Next, be sure to note that if you are a military veteran and would like to use your military service to meet some of the 4 years of experience qualifications. Also, your application may be expedited through our Military Application Assistance Program. We mentioned that a few minutes ago. There is a bonus link at the bottom of this screen here for more information on that program. To participate, you must have had an honorable discharge, and you want to be sure to include a copy of your military DD-214 paperwork showing your honorable discharge along with your application. The next couple of items are basic but very important. You want to proofread for any missing information. Make sure you have provided an answer to all necessary fields. Also, don't forget to sign and date your application after you print it. Finally, determine if you need a special accommodation to take your exams. If so, complete a request form and submit it with your application. We'll talk about the use of a translator a little bit later.
Next is a closer look at our fingerprints requirements, which are used for a criminal background check. This is a list of those who must submit a full set of fingerprints to CSLB, depending on the type of business entity. All applicants, each corporate officer, each partner, each owner, the responsible managing employee, all home improvement salespersons. If you are in California, you must submit fingerprint electronically with what's called live scan. You can get an updated list of live scan locations around California, broken down by county, on the Attorney General's website. We got a link here, or you can simply go to the Attorney General's website and search for live scan. You will also see we have a bonus link at the bottom of the screen to the fingerprint information page on our CSLB website. If you are out of a state, it's going to be tough for you to get us your fingerprints. That's because you must submit hard copies of them, the old-fashioned way. Those take anywhere between 3 and 6 months for the FBI and Department of Justice to process. When things settle down with COVID-19, you might want to consider traveling to California to get your electronic live scan done here.
So what happens if you do have a criminal conviction? CSLB may deny your license for the following reasons. First, if your conviction is substantially related to the duties, functions, and qualifications of a contractor. Also, if your conviction involves fraud or violent crimes. There are other factors CSLB can also consider. They are the nature and severity of the crimes, the amount of time that has passed since the conviction, and any evidence of rehabilitation that you submit to CSLB. CSLB evaluates felony criminal convictions within 7 years of the date of your application. So for applications filed this year, we would look back to 2014. For misdemeanor criminal convictions, we would look back 3 years of the application date, back to 2018. That's unless the convictions are for a violent felony, certain sexual crimes, or financial crimes related to construction. CSLB denies only 1% of the total applications that we receive based on criminal convictions. You'll also note the bonus link to our fingerprint information page at the bottom of the page.
Okay. Along with the education credits we talked about earlier, this next section is probably the most important of the entire workshop and the part of the application that causes the most headaches for applicants. It is how you demonstrate your work experience on your application. Remember, the license qualifier needs 4 years or 48 months of experience within the past 10 years in the classification for which he or she is applying. That means at least 4 years of experience since 2011. The experience must be at no less than a journey level or a foreman, supervising employee, contractor, or owner builder. A journeyman is defined as an experienced worker who is fully qualified as opposed to a trainee and can perform trade without supervision, or one who has completed an apprenticeship program.
There's a limited amount of space on the application to show your certified work experience, so feel free to use additional pages if needed, and you simply attach them at the end of the work experience form. Use as many certifications of work experience forms as you need to prove the required 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. Use a different form for each certifier. Be as accurate as possible. Make sure the person certifying your work describes the actual work you performed and the dates in which you performed them. We will now be providing some examples of both good and unacceptable descriptions to demonstrate your work experience. Do not copy and paste this information directly into your application. These are just examples.
At the top of this chart is the classification and type of experience you're trying to demonstrate. This first example is journey person experience. The overall theme we will keep repeating is the more specific the description, the better. The work experience form should be completed by your certifier, someone who has knowledge and observed your work experience for the classification you're applying for. That person does not have to be a licensed contractor.
So our first example here is for the Class B general building contractor. The best type of description your certifier would use for a journey person experience is to be specific. Journey person experience must include hands-on work and should look something like this. Bob performed rough and finished carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough out plumbing and electrical, interior, exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. An unacceptable description would be something more generic like this: residential general building trades. For 4-person experience, the description must include some hands-on work and/or supervisory work. Here's an example of the best type of description. Bob oversaw other staff at job site performing rough and finished carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough out plumbing and electrical, interior exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. Again, an unacceptable description would be something more generic like this: residential general building trades. For supervisory employee experience, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. An example is, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Bob supervised rough and finished carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough out plumbing and electrical, interior exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. Again, something unacceptable would be something generic like this: residential general building trades. For out-of-state contractor experience, the description must include examples of work done that was either out of state, military on federal land, or work for a government entity. Applicants can qualify as a journey person, foreperson, or a supervisory employee. Be specific about your duties and your employment circumstances. Our next example is for the C27 landscaping contractor. First, for experience at the journeyman level. An unacceptable explanation. The best type of description for this would be Jane performed. Can we get the slide, please? The best type of description would be Jane performed landscape construction, maintenance, and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips, and pathways and tree pruning. An unacceptable explanation would be gardening, yard maintenance, planting. For a C27 landscaping contractor, the best work experience description for a foreperson would be something like this. Jane oversaw other staff at job site performing landscape construction, maintenance and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. An unacceptable description would be something like this. Gardening, yard maintenance, planting. So you can see what we want is for you to be more descriptive. For a C27 supervising employee, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. The best description would be, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Jane supervised landscape construction, maintenance of installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips, and pathways and tree pruning. Unacceptable here for the supervising employee would be something like this. Gardening, yard maintenance, planting. Finally, for out-of-state contractors, the same guidance that we showed you for the general building contractors would apply. Be sure to include examples of your out-of-state work, as well as work done for the military, on federal lands, or for a government entity. Be sure to be specific when you describe the duties and your employment circumstances. By law, CSLB must randomly review and verify all of the information provided on at least 3% of the applications that we receive. Our next 3 slides run down the acceptable documentation that you can use to support your work experience in the event that your application is selected and you are asked to provide additional documentation. Remember, this supporting documentation should not be mailed in with your application. This is only going to be provided if CSLB staff request this information from you. On the lower right of the screen, you'll see a link to this publication on our website, along with additional information on experience documentation. If you look at the chart, you can see the first column is for documents you can use if you're self-employed. The first one is employed by a contractor. The second column is for documenting your experience if you were self-employed. The third column is for documentation that you can use if you're applying for a Class B general building contractor license and you need to use owner-builder experience to meet that experience requirement. These are all the documents that we would approve. Here's the next page of acceptable documentation. Again, you can click on the link to view and print the entire publication. Here's the final page of the acceptable documentation. If you do not have this information readily available, you may want to begin to gather it now, just in case you are asked to provide this information in the future. Remember, you're trying to demonstrate that you have at least 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. CSLB staff may contact the certifier of the work experience or other parties just to verify the information.
One other note, CSLB gets more than 1,000 applications a month, so our application processing staff has seen it all. We have 2 pieces of advice for you. First, don't cut and paste from this presentation. Also, don't try to get around having to take a trade test by applying for multiple subcategories under the 61 limited specialty classification. Okay, that's the content you will need to fill out your application. Before getting it to CSLB, double check to make sure you did not miss anything. Be sure to sign and date it as well. And don't forget to include the all-important $330 application fee. You will pay the $200 initial licensing fee after you pass your exam or exams. Then put your application packet in the mail to CSLB, hand delivered to one of our public counters. We have got a bonus link at the bottom of the screen with our office locations.
Okay, now that we have gone through the information you're going to need to include, here's a closer look at the application itself so you can see where the information goes. This is section 1 of our application. Section 1 is where you will list the business name. Remember, when selecting a business name, make sure the name that you have selected is compatible with the classification and the entity that you are applying for, and that it is not misleading. If your business name is a corporation or an LLC, you will need to make sure that the name you provide in this section here matches exactly the business name that you have registered with the Secretary of State. In line 2 is where you will indicate what classification you are applying for. The mailing address and phone number that you list here on line 3A and 3C will be made public on CSLB's website once you are licensed. Here is section 2. In section 2, you will select your business entity. If you're applying for a corporation or an LLC, you will need to provide your registration number provided to you by the Secretary of State. Make sure to pay extra attention to the instructions in this section pertaining to the entity for which you are applying. In section 3 is where you will list the qualifiers information. Remember, the qualifier is a person that meets the experience requirements. This is a person that will be responsible for the direct supervision and control of the construction operations. The qualifier is also the person who takes the examinations. On line 6, you will list any previous or current license numbers you've held. You will also need to list the percentage of the new business owned by the qualifier. For example, if you're the only person on the license that will be listed, you're going to enter 100% here. On line 7, you will need to indicate what position will be held by the qualifier. Each entity has different personnel requirements, so you will need to make sure that you have listed all positions depending on the entity that you're selecting. You can find more information on this on page 2 through 4 of our application instructions. Line number 8 is where you will sign and date your application. Next is section 4, the personnel full legal names and addresses. Here's where you will list the personnel information for all remaining personnel that will be listed on your license. For example, if you are applying for a corporation, you will need to indicate who will be the responsible managing officer or employee, the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. Again, more information can be found on this on page 4 of our application instructions. If you will have more than 4 people on your license, you can make additional copies of this page and include them with your application. For a corporation or an LLC, you will want to make sure that all personnel that you have listed with the Secretary of State is listed here in this section. All personnel that will be listed on the license must also sign the application here in section 4. Section 5 is a series of yes or no questions, so we're not going to cover those here. Section 6 is the qualifier education, apprenticeship, licensure, or military section. You may be granted credit towards the 4-year experience requirement based on your education. Question number 17 asks you if you have completed an educational or apprenticeship program. You will need to submit official sealed transcripts if you would like to be considered for this credit. If you attend formal training or an apprenticeship program, you will need to provide a certificate of completion. Get those sealed transcripts sent to you, then include it with your application packet. Do not have the program send the transcripts directly to CSLB. You don't want to take a chance in case we're not able to match them up with your application. CSLB may grant you up to 3 years of credit based on your education. This credit is not on a year-to-year basis, meaning if you have a 2-year college degree, you won't necessarily be granted 2 years of credit towards your experience requirement. You may qualify for this credit regardless of when you completed your education. The 10-year time frame does not apply to education. You may also apply for this credit even if your education wasn't received in this country. If your degree is in any other language than English, it must be translated. Now let's talk about the certification of work experience. Part 1 must be filled out by you, the applicant. Here you will list the information for your employer where you gained your experience. If you were self-employed when you gained your experience, please make sure you mark the box in line number 2. If you are applying for a B general construction license and will be using experience obtained while working on your own property, make sure to mark the box here in line number 4. Part number 2 is going to be filled out by the certifier that you choose. In this section, the certifier must include the dates in which you obtained your experience. They must also select if you were working on a part-time or a full-time basis. Keep in mind that if you are working on a part-time basis, you're only going to receive 50% of the credit for the time frame. So you want to make sure that you'll have 8 years of experience within the last 10 years to meet that 4-year requirement. On line number 6, your certifier will need to list the duties that you performed or supervised that are considered critical for the classification that you are applying for. You can read a description of critical duties in CSLB's description classification booklet available on our website. Do not copy and paste the description from our booklet. This is only to give you an idea of what CSLB considers to be critical duties for each of our classifications. Your certifier should complete this section in their own words, and they should be as complete and accurate as possible. Now, the final part of the work experience certificate is to be completed by your certifier as well. They need to list their relationship to you, mark the correct box, and also provide their contact information. Lastly, they will need to sign and date the certification. The next form we're going to discuss is our Owner Builder B General Building Construction Project Experience form. This form only needs to be completed if you're applying for a B General Construction License and you want to receive experience credit for working on projects of your own property. A separate form is required for each project on the property. The experience must be verifiable through building permits, final inspection, or some other documentation. You will need to list the building permit number here on line number 6. On line number 7, you will need to provide the scope of the project. In boxes 8 through 10 is where you're going to provide detailed information about the project itself. Question number 11 asks if other general construction contractors worked on the project and what trades did they perform. Remember, this information needs to be as complete and accurate as possible.
With all the information Anna just covered, this is a good time to remind you that we are recording this workshop. We will post a video on our YouTube channel so you can go back, rewatch in case there is anything you missed. Okay, so you've got your application submitted. How do you check the status of that application? Here are 2 resources. First is the secure check. You will need your application fee number and contractor PIN number to get an update. We will send you that information after we receive, accept, and post your completed application. The second way to check is to look online at our processing times. Each week, we update our website with the date we receive the paperwork for a specific process. So look for the date being worked on and know that date shown is after the date we likely received your paperwork. It's likely we are busy working on your application. As you can imagine, CSLB receives hundreds, if not thousands of documents every day, and we process them in order they are received. So be sure to take the extra time getting the application right so we don't have to send it back to you to correct and then have to start the processing process again. When our application has been accepted, CSLB will send you a notice to appear for examination and a study guide. You should get your exam notice at least 3 weeks prior to exam day. CSLB test centers have recently reopened since being closed for COVID-19. CSLB has 7 test centers throughout California and encourages candidates to take their exams at the nearest test center.
If you're an applicant whose first language isn't English and you don't feel confident taking your exams in English, we do allow you to use a translator. The translator who you provide simply reads the exam questions. Question number 16 on the application asks if you need to use a translator to complete this examination. The translator has to be pre-approved by CSLB in advance. You cannot just show up on the day of your examination to the test center with someone to translate the exam for you. When you get an exam date, make sure you do not miss it. If you fail to appear for your exam, you will have to pay a non-refundable $60 fee to reschedule your exam. That fee may be waived once with documented evidence of a medical emergency or other circumstance beyond your control. Also, we have study guides available for each of our exams. Included in each one of these study guides, you will find a list of sections and topics covered by each exam. They also include a couple of sample questions. It also includes a section on how each section of the exam is going to be weighted. And it also recommends resource materials that you can begin to study now to prepare for your examination. These study guides are available online on our website right now. There's a bonus link here at the bottom of our page to the study guides.
Here is a quick look at 2 of those study exams. The first is the Law and Business exam, which all qualifiers must take, no matter which license classification, including the D Series Limited classes. You can see the guide contains a breakdown of examination topics, some test strategies, sample questions, and resources that were used to help create that exam. You will see same format on the B General Building Study Guide. We would recommend that you really pay attention to the exam content here, especially how we have broken down what percentage of questions there will be on each of the 5 topics on the exam. You will also note on the lower right of both of these 2 slides, you will see bonus links to the actual study guide, as well as a link to the complete list of study guides.
Again, our test centers recently reopened, so we do have COVID-19 procedures in place for applicants on test day. Here they are. Plan to arrive at least 15 minutes early for your exam. Give yourself extra time to get checked in. You must wear a face mask or other face covering. If you appear ill, you will have to reschedule your exam for at least 5 days later at no additional charge. And you will not be admitted into the test center more than 15 minutes prior to your exam time. We've also produced a short video, What to Expect on Test Date, that you can watch on our YouTube channel. The link is at the bottom of your screen.
You will take your exam on a touchscreen computer. Before starting, you will see an on-screen tutorial that will take you through the process. The exam itself consists of multiple choice questions. You will also see a space on each question where you can, if you want, submit a comment about that question. You will get 3.5 hours to complete each exam. Don't arrive late, or that may reduce the amount of time you get to complete your exam. You will get your results at the end of the exam. If you don't pass the exam, you will not be allowed to review the questions you missed, but you will get a statement showing how you did on each section of the exam. You can reschedule the exam as many times as you need to within the 18 months period, as long as you pay the non-refundable $60 rescheduling fee each time.
So you may be asking yourself, once you pass the exam, what's going to happen next? Well, first you'll need to pay a $200 fee for your initial licensing fee, which will be good for 2 years. You'll also need to complete an online asbestos open book exam. Plus, you'll need to file your required $15,000 contractor surety bond. possibly some other bonds depending on what type of business entity you have selected. You'll also need to get your required insurance policy. If you've got employees, you'll need to get workers' compensation insurance. If you're going to be an LLC, you'll also need liability insurance. See our website for more information on those. Please note that your insurance company or broker can submit your insurance information to CSLB directly on our website. If you are not going to have employees, then you must file a workers' compensation exemption form with CSLB. You can do that online as well.
In about 5 to 10 business days, CSLB will send you a wall certificate and plastic pocket license card. Display the wall certificate in your main office or chief place of business. Carry your pocket card with you, especially in situations where you are going to solicit business, talk to potential customers, or sign contracts. We encourage consumers to ask you to see your pocket license. If you are going to have salesperson working for you, be sure to get them registered as a home improvement salesperson with CSLB. Check our website for more on how to do that. Your license will be good for 2 years. It will expire on the last day of the month when it was issued. For example, a license issued today, March 5th, 2021, will expire on March 31st, 2023. Be sure to put that expiration date on your calendar, in your phone, anywhere you need, so you won't forget it. CSLB will send you a renewal notice in the mail approximately 60 days before it expires, but ultimately, it is your responsibility to renew your license on time.
Here are a couple of other important deadlines to keep in mind. First, notify CSLB within 30 days if you move or change your business address. Your renewal notice will be sent to the address of record that we have on file. If you're not there anymore, you're probably not going to get it. The Postal Service does not forward state government mail. Finally, notify CSLB within 30 days of all changes to personnel on your license, especially when it involves the qualifier of the license.
Once you get your license and get to work, you might want to hire someone as a salesperson to solicit, sell, negotiate home improvement contracts on your behalf outside of your place of business. These people are called home improvement salesperson or HIS. Without a home improvement salesperson, the official personnel of record on a license are the only ones that can solicit, sell, negotiate, or execute a contract. That includes individual contractors, licensed qualifiers, partners, corporation officers, and LLC responsible managing officers, members, managers, or employees. A HIS can work for more than one contractor. The license must notify CSLB in writing when they either associate or disassociate an home improvement salesperson with their license.
There are a couple of exceptions here. First are those who only schedule appointments for the contractor or the registered HIS. Bona fide service and repair people, the folks that you call out for repairs, like things like repairing your air conditioning, your heating, or your plumbing. Those service and repair people are limited to the work that was initially requested by the buyer or the homeowner. For example, if your AC goes out and you call an HVAC company to come out, the service person does not have to be a registered salesperson. But if they go beyond the repair itself and then they want to sell you a new HVAC system, then they have to be a registered HIS. Also, don't employ any unregistered salesperson. That subjects you to administrative discipline, and the salesperson might get a citation or possibly even a criminal misdemeanor. So we got a bonus link here at the bottom of the page if you want to look into the actual code section of law for more information. Okay, so that is our presentation. Now it's time for questions and answers. So we'll go ahead and start answering some of the questions, okay? First question. I'm a journeyman in Colorado. I have all the hours for my master's here, but I have to move to California. Would I be able to test for the C10 right away? Or would I have to test for the general electrician's license and spend another 4 years at a company? I have been in business here in Colorado for almost 9 years as an electrical contracting business company and would like to be able to relocate my business to California. Okay, so if you, what the requirement for the license is you have to prove that you have 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. It looks like you have 9 years of experience. So as long as 4 of those years of experience were within the last 10 years, you would be able to apply for a license. Next says, hi, we own a company. There's no question there. We would like to get our GC business license. What's the easiest for that? So we kind of, the requirements for the B license, general construction B license, are the same for all of our licenses. You need 4 years within the last 10 years. So as long as you have 4 years within the last 10 years, you would be able to qualify. Next question. If I have a bachelor's, not business or CM, and additionally have technical training, could they both go towards my 48-month requirement if I also have a year of experience? So it says, if I have a bachelor's, not in business, and additionally have technical training, could they both go toward my 48-month requirement?
We will take the one that gives you the most.
Mm-hmm. So they can't be combined. They'll look at your, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll look at your education and give you the most credit that they can. Next question, how can I download this presentation? So you can go to our website, www.cslb.ca.gov, and you'll be able to download it there. We also have a YouTube channel. We are recording this, so it will be on our YouTube channel and you can watch it later. It says, I have an AAS in construction electrician from an accredited community college in Colorado. I believe this goes with the question we received before. As long as you have 4 years of 4 years of combined education and experience, it looks like you have 9 years of hands-on experience, you would be able to apply. I am seeking for a license for C28. Currently have a locksmith license. Would I need to get fingerprinted again? So would he need to get
Yes, if you apply, since you don't have a license with actually CSLB, if it is the first time you're applying, then yes, you have to get fingerprinted.
Is the work experience my work experience or the qualifiers? Can I use multiple sources if I did jobs with multiple contractors? Okay, so the qualifier is the person with the experience, and that is the person who will also take the examination. So if, let's say if you're going to be the only one on the license, then you are going to be the qualifier, and you would list the experience. Your certifier would list your experience. So the experience has to be for you. Whoever is qualifying that license has to have 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. And yes, not one contractor has to be able to certify the 4 years. If you need, let's say you need 4 contractors to certify your 4 years, one for each year, you can make copies. You can make multiple copies of that page. As long as the 48 months don't overlap, you would get 48 months credit. We are looking for 48 months within the last 10 years. Can I use multiple sources if I did jobs with multiple contractors? Yes, you can. If the RME is already a licensed B general contractor, do I still fill out the original contractor license application and take the exam? So if they have an RME who already has a B general contractor license, do they fill out the original contract license application?
If they already hold the classification, they can submit the original contractor license application, exam waiver, and then they don't have to retake the exam.
Okay. I'm hoping to learn where to start. Is there a link or document to show the order for applying? For example, first apply for business of Secretary of State, application for CSLB. So you may want to rewatch this workshop here. Like I said, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. You can download it from our webpage, and we did go through the order, so you can go ahead and do that first. You'll want to register with Secretary of State first. If you're going to be an LLC or a corporation, you need to do that first because you'll need that information when you are filling out your application. When ready, do we take both exams on the same day, the law exam and the specific trade exam? So do they take the exam both on the same day?
It will be scheduled on the same day, but they can always just take half and then take the other one some other time. But for the first time when they're scheduled, yes, they're scheduled for the same day.
And if you need to reschedule, it's a $60 rescheduling fee, just as a reminder.
Correct.
Is it possible to download this presentation? Yes, we've covered that. If my bachelor's degree is not in business or engineering, will it still count towards education credit? So if their degree is not in business and engineering, can they still get credit?
Yes, they still get some credit. Submit your transcripts that shows the degree, and you will get some credit.
For a person that is self-employed, could your client be your certifier? Yes. If you are self-employed and you have clients who can certify that you have 4 years of experience within the last 10, yes, you can have them fill out that form, have them be very detailed, very specific on the duties that you performed for them, and yes, they can be your certifier. Are the tests given online? No, not at this time. You have to take the exam. They are on the computer, but you have to take them at one of our CSLB test locations. Do you add educational credit, or is it 24 months for a law degree and nothing for a bachelor's degree? So I think they're asking how much can they get for a law degree and a bachelor's degree if they have both?
If the bachelor degree is administrative, like business admin, that's 24 months. If there is a law degree, that's 24 months.
So we wouldn't add them. We're not going to be combining. It would only be 24 months. Then you would have to have another 24 months of practical experience. Correct, folks?
Correct.
If an individual is
combine.
Right, no, we won't combine the experience. If an individual is currently listed as the RME on a license and has been on it for 15 years and now would like to disassociate from that license to get their own, can they apply for an exam waiver? So if you're an RME and you passed the exam, you've been on this license for 15 years, it's active, and now you want to go ahead and get your own, you can apply for the waiver if it's going to be in the same classification that you already have. So as long as you already have that classification, yes, you can apply for the exam waiver. Do certifications given for courses by licensed contractors count towards the education requirement? So if it's something that the contractor, a course that the contractor offered, would they get credit for that?
We do not usually use that. You can send it in. We have our deputy look at it, but we have not in the past given credit for that.
Right. Am I the qualifier? Like, I'm the applicant, but here it's called the qualifier. Yes, the applicant is the qualifier. If you have a corporation, there's more people, there's more, not just the one person on the license, then you would tell us who the qualifier is. But if it's just going to be you, you're the applicant, it's just one person on the license, you are the qualifier. What additional information is needed for Section 5, Question 13? I'm not sure. We'll get back to you on that one. Section 5, Question 13. I don't see the application. My father has 20 years of being an electrician. I am a U.S. Army veteran, and I wanted to start the company with my father. Which path would be more appropriate when applying for my contractor's license? So if his father has 20 years of being an electrician, he's an Army U.S. veteran, they want to start the company together. What would be the most appropriate path for applying for a contractor's license? Can they both be on a license?
Yes. One of them has to be, of course, the qualifier, the person who actually has the experience. Now, if, again, depends on the entity of the license they're going to apply for, that will decide the titles. If it's sole ownership, the father has to be the RME because you cannot have more than one owner, and the son could be the owner. And if it's corporation, of course, it has its own title. So they have to decide which entity they choose, and then based on that, choose the titles. Yes, they can.
So they can. You can both be on the license. You would have to let us know who the qualifier is. It sounds like it's going to be your father, since he's the one with the experience. He would be responsible for the supervision of the job, and also he would have to take the examination. What experience documentation is needed if you're part of a family contracting business and have been working and listed on the license for 10 plus years? I've been working and listed on the license. So if you're already on a license, you can let us know that. There is a question on the application that asks if you are listed on any other license. So you can include that license number and we would be able to reference that. What type of license requires to perform the hydrovac excavation work? So do you want to talk about when you're not sure what license you should apply for, what you should do?
Please send the email to classifications, that's plural, classifications at cslb.ca.gov, and our deputies, classification deputies, will help you with that.
Correct. So there had been a question about Section 5, question number 13. What it's asking is if you are going to be the certifier of the qualifier on your license, if you are the qualifier, will you, as a qualifying individual, perform one or more of these duties? And the duties listed are direct supervision, control over construction operations. What we are asking there is if you are going to be the qualifier, you are responsible for that license. You are responsible for supervision. So if you're going to be the qualifier, you need to answer yes, because you will be responsible. What documentation can be used to verify unpaid work experience? So we did talk about, we have that, there is a form on our website. We included the link and you can access it from our general website. It's listed as acceptable documentation to verify work experience. On there, we do accept different documentation that we accept. We do give credit for work that wasn't paid, or if you were cash pay and can't prove that you received cash pay, you have no receipts. There are other ways of providing documentation for that work experience. So I do encourage you to look at that form there. It will give you ideas of what we do, what we accept as documentation to prove your work experience. Now remember, you're not going to want to send in that information with your application. You're only going to need to send in that documentation if a CSLB employee asks you. Once we receive your application, we'll assign it to a technician. They will review your application. If they need supporting documentation, they will let you know, and then you'll want to check out that document. Okay. How can I obtain work credit if I no longer work for that employer and the employment ended in turmoil? So how can they get work credit if they don't work for the employer anymore?
Remember, it doesn't have to be your employer that certify you. There are different individuals on that certification of work experience that can certify you. So as long as they have observed you to do the work, you can ask them to certify you.
Mm-hmm. My grandfather, now long deceased, had a contractor's license. It was active until the early 90s. After they qualified, can they request a license number that belongs to a relative? for sentimental reasons.
Back in the 90s. No, you can submit, you look at, but no, usually we don't go back that long. Usually we just, for example, if they are leaving the business now, retiring or disease, unfortunately recently, but the license is in sort of like good standing, then we can transfer it. So being from the 90s, no.
Okay. How many questions for each exam? So it varies, and anywhere from 100 to 120, I would say, on our exams, both the business and law, and then you would take the trade exam if needed. Also, we have a large bank of questions, so sometimes it might be that you come in today and take your exam and then come back in 3 weeks to retake an exam, and none of the questions that you got on the last exam are listed on this exam. That's because we are constantly switching out the test questions. We do want to make sure that you know the answers and you know what you're applying for. So we do have a large bank of questions, but roughly between 100 to 120 questions. I am a trustee of a trust. Can I serve as the owner builder for work done to gain experience credit? Vote.
You have to actually show us that you have performed the work. So like for the owner builders, you should properly serve as the owner builder. Then you have to submit like the permits and all that stuff, and you have to show us that you have actually performed, or you supervise the laborers perform. We will not give you credit for the work done by other general contractors.
Right, and that's only if you're going for the B license, correct?
Exactly. Only B gets owner builder credit.
From the chart, it appears that a Bachelor of Science in Construction Management will be granted 36 months of educational credit. Is that always the case? Will they always be granted 36 months, vote, if they have a Bachelor of Science?
Science in construction management. Yes, 36.
Did you say yes, 36 months?
Yes, 36 months. Make me say they get 36.
Next question. I am applying for a builder owner license. My name is not under the house deed or permits. It's under my dad's name. We have the same last name and we live together. I conducted the work because of his age. Do I qualify to apply? No, if it's not your property, it looks like this is not your property and you're not on the permits. If your name is not on the permits, you're not going to be able to document that experience, so you wouldn't be able to qualify. Right, so
Correct.
do other personnel have to do a live scan? Yes, anybody who is going to be listed on the license has to do a live scan. Can a certifier be a member of the same LLC applying for the license? So can somebody who's on the license be the certifier?
Yeah, as long as they have the authority to do work. And if it's actually required of documents or that they can verify, yes, they can get a certified.
Next question. I have a BA degree in graphic design and an MS degree in business. Does any of this qualify towards the 4-year requirement? Again, we're not going to be able to give you specific answers. Not until we actually have your transcript in front of a technician will they be able to let you know how much they'll be able to give you. So it's not something that we can answer here. You're going to have to send in your transcripts with your application. Do we apply using my own name or have to be a business? you have the option. You can apply using your own name. If you would like a business name, you do have the option of using a business name, and you would let us know that in section 1. But if you don't list a business name, we'll go ahead and issue the license to your personal name. Do you need to have formal training for the C10? Fo, do they need to have formal training for the C10 license?
We would look at your journeyman experience. Your formal training. So as long as you have the 4 years of journeyman or higher experience, and you just certify that or verify that with the certification or proficiency, that's what we need.
Okay, next question. I have a business degree in taking construction management. My husband is a journeyman and planning on a B license. Should he be the qualifier or should I? You will need to select who's going to be the certifier. Again, you need 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. So if he's a journeyman and he's planning on getting the B and he has 4 years within the last 10, it can be him. If you have a business degree, you would have to have the most you would be able to get, depending on what type of degree you have, the most you would be able to get would be 36 months. So you would still have to have 1 month of practical experience. Okay. Next question. Is there any conflict of being property manager and using my B class license? In order to be a property manager, you need to have a B class license, depending on the type of work that you're going to be doing. We would need more information to answer that question. It depends exactly what are you doing as a property manager. But if you're performing construction work as part of a property manager, yes, you would need to have a B license. Or if you're in charge of overseeing the project, you would need a B license. Will a bachelor in civil engineering be granted 36 months? Again, we're not going to be able to give specifics of of how much credit we can give. Sorry, is this class also for a sales license? No. What this class is for is only for a California contractor license. If I have built something as an owner builder, how do I use that towards my credit? If you owned the property and you're applying for a B license, you can fill out the form that we discussed. If you download our application online, there is a form attached to the application that you will need to fill out. Again, it has to be verifiable. You have to be able to prove that you are the owner and that you did the work. You can use permits. We can things of that nature, but you do need to fill out the form and provide a copy of the permit. I understand CSLB has many applications to review. What is the average time it takes for the process to complete from submitting the application to passing the exam? So right now, you can go on our website and look at our processing times. You will be able to see what date we're working on. It varies, everybody's is different because some people will it'll take longer to get their fingerprints done or get their criminal background record back to us. So different scenarios, but you can go on our website right now, look at our processing times, look at the date that we're working on. Okay. Working in the role as a handyman, what would be the best license to test for? So we currently don't have a handyman license. We don't have a handyman license. And Fo, do you want to talk about that one?
Right now, we don't have a handyman license. They're using their license, like the license you have now.
I think we're still having problem with your audio, Fo. It's okay. So working in the role as a handyman, we don't have a handyman license, so you would have to pick a trade, and you can look at our classifications to see the various classifications that we offer. We are currently working on a remodel license that will be in production hopefully soon. We're working on getting it has been approved by the governor. The governor approved us issuing a new classification, the remodel license. It's not in effect just yet. They're still working on the examination for it. So coming soon, make sure you check back on our website. But as of right now, what we would what we would suggest is look at the different classifications that we carry and apply for one of those. If I am a military veteran in a non-construction career field, should I still submit my military college transcript and my DD-214? Yes, you can still submit it because we can look at that, and we do offer an expedited service for veterans. So even if you don't get the education requirement, you may be able to get expedited service. So it's a good idea to submit it. Where does civil engineering degree fall within the amount of credit given? So again, we won't be able to give you specifics on that until we actually have your transcript. If I have a BA and an AA, are they both taken into consideration? So we don't combine credit. We will use the one that gives you the most credit. I want to get a contractor's license to do home improvement projects, but I am by myself right now. Do I have to get a business entity registration first to get a contractor's license? No. If you were going to be applying, you said you're by yourself. So I don't know if that means you're applying for a sole owner license. If you're applying for a sole owner, you don't have to register your business first. It's not a requirement for us. You can apply for a license as a sole owner. How many years of credit will be given for somebody with 14 years of military? Well, we wouldn't be able to tell you that until we had your paperwork in front of us. So, but what we are looking for is 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. If I have built something as an owner builder, how do I use that? So that one's been answered as well. Are there programs to gain relevant contractor work experience while working full-time? We don't offer any programs. What we would need is for you to prove that you have 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. And so let's say you're only doing it as a part-time to gain the experience, then we would be looking at 8 years within the last 10 years. Can a certifier be a member? Okay, that one's been answered as well. I wanted to start a company with my father. He has 20 years of experience. We've answered that one as well. Let me run through here and see. I think we're getting a lot of the same questions again. How does, at 1058, how does a splitting a Class B license with a partner work? So if you are going to apply for a partnership license, we do have partnership license. That can be the entity. If you're applying for a Class B, you would let us know who the qualifier is. You would let us know who the person with the experience is. That person is the qualifier. That person is the one who will be taking the examinations. The only caveat with that is, let's say one day one of the partners decides to leave. Then if you would want, let's say you and your partner are applying, he's the one with the experience, you tell us he's the qualifier, he takes the examination. If one day you decide to break up that partnership and that partner leaves, then you could reapply, but you would have to take the examination at that point, since you did not take it initially. Is it possible to apply for C8 and C29 in the same license? So one license can have multiple classifications. The way it works is that when you submit your application, you would have to choose one classification. So you select either the C8 or the C29. You start with one, and as long as you are able to provide experience for both classifications, let's say 4 years within the last 10 years, then we would be able to issue the additional classification. The way it works is once your license number is issued, you would then submit a different form, an easier form. It's the additional classification form. The fee is $150, and then we would add that classification to your license. So you can have multiple classifications. And at the time of renewal, you only pay one renewal fee for all of the classifications. There isn't a renewal fee for each classification. It's all under one license, so there's just one renewal fee. Our plumbing company is incorporated. Can we add a general engineering to the corporation? Again, you can add different classifications to your license. As long as you have the experience, you can prove the experience, you can add different classifications to any license. If two people apply for a license and one doesn't have experience whatsoever, would the application be denied? No. If two people are applying for a license, and sometimes we see it's like a husband and wife, they both want to be on the license, but only one of them is the one with the work experience, that person would be the qualifier. They have the experience. They would be responsible for taking the examination, and they would supervise the construction, and both of you could be on the license, not a problem. I have 28 years electrical experience, 14 different state electrical master license. Is it possible to qualify for a license in California by endorsement without taking the trade exam and only having to take the business law exam? It depends. Let's see, I have 28 years of electrical. If you are licensed in another state, we do have reciprocity with some states. There's only 4 states that we have reciprocity with. So if you are licensed in another state, we absolutely want you to let us know. And then yes, you would only take the business law exam. But if it's not one of the states that we have reciprocity with, then you would take both the business law and the trade. If I am self-employed, will I need more than tax returns to prove work experience, or will I need additional documentation to prove work experience? So, as we mentioned, if you are self-employed and are asked to provide additional documentation to prove your work experience, we do have a form that you can look up on our website, www.cslb.ca.gov, and if in the search engine you put acceptable documentation for work experience, you can see the form. You'll see what forms we would approve, what type of documentation will be accepted. For the general contractor license experience, I don't have trade or building experience, but I do have management supervisory experience. Can this fulfill toward the work experience? So it looks like you have 15 years of experience. We do give experience credit for being a manager or a supervisor of a construction. It depends. So we want to make sure that you do have the 4 years within the last 10. It looks like you have over 15. So if that's within the last 10 years, we would encourage you to use that. We do provide experience credit for supervisors. Yes. I heard a thing, a qualifier applies as a sole owner. The process will take longer than an LLC. Any difference? And how's the process time now? Like, I will apply the application now. When will I get the test? Okay, so again, all of our applications are processed in the same time frame, regardless of what entity you select. Sole owner, LLC, corporations, they all are processed at the same time frame. So you can go on our website, like I mentioned, you can go on our website now, look at our processing times and see what date we're working on. I would encourage you to look. As far as test dates, we're a little behind because we did have to close down our test centers. They just reopened in February, so we are trying to catch up with our test dates. So we do ask that you be patient, but you can go on our website and look at our processing times. Okay. Is there a contractor school that CSLB recommends? No, CSLB doesn't recommend any of the contractor schools. We have heard that some contractor schools really do assist our applicants in passing their examinations, but we've also heard from other applicants that tell us that they took the examination, they took the classes and they didn't help them with the examination. We are not affiliated with any of the contractor schools. We do not give them our questions. We don't share our questions with them. So we're not sure what questions they're using to prepare their applicants with. So no, we're not affiliated with any. We don't recommend one over the other. I worked for a real estate developer as a construction manager for 11 years. Does this qualify as work experience to obtain a contractor's license? It depends what duties you performed as a construction manager. Were you overseeing construction work? It depends. So you want to pay attention on whoever's certifying your license, your work experience. They're going to want to take a look at our presentation, because we did talk about the experience and how what we give credit for and what would be the best type of description for that work. So go ahead and review the. You can download our presentation and pay special attention to that, because we do give credit for management experience. Can working with a C10 certified qualify as experience? If you're applying for a C10 license, you can use that experience, yes. What you want to do is make sure you have 4 years within the last 10 years, and that they are very detailed as far as what your work experience, what type of duties you did. Now, remember, it does not have to be a licensed contractor to be your certifier. Your certifier can be any number of those. There's boxes at the bottom of that certification form. It could be a foreman, it could be a business associate, it could be a co-worker, different categories. So it does not have to be a licensed contractor to be your certifier. It was mentioned that some specialty licenses only need to take the law exam. How is that determined, as I may have missed that explanation? Yes, so we have, if you look on our list of the classifications that we offer, we do have some that are specialty. C61, we went over that section as well. They're very limited in what they can do, but there are some that do not require the law exam. So if it falls, I'm sorry, it only requires a law exam. There is no trade exam. So you'll want to look at the list of our classifications offered, and there's C61 specialty classifications. Those do not require the second exam. I have been working on my own for 5 years. I have no supervisor to verify experience. What do I do for verification? Okay, so we've talked about how, if you're a sole owner, how you can go about it, documenting your experience. You still need the same, it's going to be the same process. You're still going to need somebody to fill out your certification form, somebody that knows that you have journeyman level experience, at least 4 years within the last 10 years. That would start the process. And then if you are contacted by CSLB to provide additional documentation, there is a list of documentation that we would approve for somebody who is a sole owner that works just by themselves. There is a list of documentation that we would accept. So you want to go ahead and look at that. Do we need to take both exams if we have sufficient work experience? Yes, you still need to take both exams. Hello, I want to apply for my C54 tile contractor license. I have 17 years of experience, but I'm self-employed. How can I prove my work experience? Okay, so we just answered that one. If I am in an apprenticeship and working on owner-builder projects simultaneously, am I able to use experience from both? You can submit both. You want to submit the owner-builder project form, and then you also want to submit any certification that you've received from the apprenticeship program, and then we will let you know. Once we have those in front of us, we can review them and let you know how much experience you get. I think this goes with the question before. You would still, no matter how many years you've been in the construction field, you still need to take both exams. Can a real estate broker license be used in any way towards a contractor's license? No, you would have to, as we've mentioned, what you need is construction experience. We would need to see construction experience 4 years within the last 10. So I'm reading through these. We have a lot of repeat questions. For other personnel listed on the application, do they have to do a live scan as well? Yes, everybody who is listed on the application will need to do live scan. I have a bachelor's degree. I have 7 years of overseas experience. Would this count towards licensing? So again, if you have questions about your education, we can't give you specifics on how much credit you would get, but you would have to submit your transcripts along with your application in order to to know exactly how much credit you'll get. But you can refer to the chart that we have up now to get an idea. A lot of education questions. You'll want to refer to the screen that we have up. All of my experience in the last 10 years is with an employer that I left on very bad terms with. Are they under any obligation to complete the experience verification? No, it doesn't have to be that person. If you have a coworker that worked with you throughout those 10 years that knows that you have journeyman level experience, at least 4 years within the last 10 years, that person can be your qualifier, your certifier, I'm sorry. It does not have to be your employer. Hi, I have a C36 license and I want to apply for a B license contractor. Do I still need to take both tests, the legal part and the trade part? So if you already have a C36 and it's active and in good standing and you want to apply for a B classification, you only need to submit the additional classification for the B classification, and you would only be required to take the trade exam for the B since you're already licensed. I am a journeyman welder. Does C60 supersede C23? They both do two different functions. So what you can do is you can look at our classification booklet that we have available online. It's a description of classification booklet, and that booklet lets you know what jobs you can perform with the different classifications that CSLB offers. So you'll want to read up on C60 and then read up on C23 and see which is the most appropriate class for the work that you are doing. Can one person in the company take the test and the other person have the experience? No. The person who takes the examination is the person with the experience. That's the qualifier. So you let us know who has the experience, and that's the person who has to take the examination. For the A general engineering license, is experience on a high-rise skyscraper acceptable? 31-story concrete structure. For a civil engineer, for an A license, that does sound like something that would help you apply. Definitely A license can build skyscrapers, so you would want to submit that information on the work experience certification form so that we can consider it. Again, we're looking for 4 years within the last 10 years. Normally, how soon will we get the response if we are qualified to the test? It says, how soon will we get the response? You will know on the day that you take your examination if you pass or fail. They will let you know the moment you take your exam. They'll let you know if you passed or failed, and if you failed, they'll let you know what your percentage was and what they won't tell you the correct answer to the questions, but they will let you know what topics you need to study about so that you can pass it the next time. My father is the sole proprietor with a General B. I've worked with him for over 17 years. How would I best transition to take over? So if you've worked with him for 17 years and you want to take over the license, you would just need to, again, prove that you have the 4 years within the last 10, and we can help with that. I would have you contact, I don't know, Fode, if your audio is working now, but would it be best for him to send an email to the licensing email address? We're gonna cover that in just a second. There's a licensing email address that you can send an email to and let them know that that's what you're planning to do, and they can assist you with that. It's listed right there on the screen. If you can see the screen, licensing at cslb.ca.gov, and let them know that that's what you're trying to do. And unfortunately, Fode's audio is not working, but if you send an email to that address, they will respond to you. Okay. I was on a job where the handyman said he had a General B license. I looked his company up, and it's not his name, but a different name on as a corporation. How many people can use this person's license and the license was not listed on their website or business card? Can the license be an umbrella for subcontractors, or is the corporation misusing the license to let this handyman sub get jobs larger than $500? So multiple questions here. And it's a good question, because when you get a license, let's say you get a B license, you, as a corporation, everybody who is on that license has to be listed on the CSLB website. So if you see somebody who is not on that license, then they are technically working without a license. When you become a licensed contractor and you want to hire subcontractors, it is your responsibility to make sure that they are licensed contractors and that they are licensed in the correct classification. And that's important because let's say you're a B general contractor and you want to hire somebody to do the concrete, a C8 concrete contractor. You want to make sure that that person is properly licensed, and if they're going to have employees, that they have workers' compensation insurance for their employees. Because if the homeowner, let's say, one of their employees gets hurt on the job and the homeowner files a complaint with us, we will hold you responsible for having hired that contractor. So make sure that you hire somebody who is properly licensed in the correct classification. Okay, and all that information is available on our website. We do list the people who are listed on the license. So if you didn't see their name on our website, they're not listed on that license. For the general contractor license experience, I don't have trade building experience, but I do have management experience. Okay, we've talked about that one. It says, can you please restate the order of applying? I'm hoping to learn where to start. Is there a link or document to show the order of applying? With us, you would want to, the first step is to send in your application. That's the first step. And then once you apply, we will send you out a test date. And at the same time, we will also send you live scan information so that you can get your fingerprints cleared. That would be the process. But first, the first step is just applying, sending in your application. On the owner builder form, do I select yes on box number 3, self-employed? On the owner builder, now remember, the owner builder form is only if you're an owner of the property and you're wanting to gain experience for work done on your own property. And you have to have proof, documentation that you are the one that performed the work and that you own that property. And the proof can be in the form of a permit, final inspections. We'll take a look at all of that. But it has nothing to do with being an LLC or a partner or anything like that. The owner builder form is for those who want to apply for a B license and need to use experience working on their own project. Hello, I am an architect. I have more than 45 years experience. I want to work as a designer, housing plans. Do I need a license for that? Will you have in Spanish another event like this? We used to hold our workshops in Spanish monthly. But due to COVID, we had to close down the Spanish workshops. We are working on making online Spanish workshops, so be on the lookout on our website for that. As far as the experience for designer, housing, and plans, it depends exactly what you're going to be doing. What I would recommend is that you look at our classification booklet online and see if the work that you're going to be doing falls under that category, and if so, that means you would be required to have a license, a California contractor license. Also, we do have, as Fode had mentioned earlier, we do have a classification deputy. And what that person does is when you are interested in becoming a licensed contractor, but you're not too sure which license classification you should be applying for, if you send them an email and let them know what type of work you're going to be doing, what type of materials you're going to be using, what is going to be the scope of your contract, things of that nature. If you send them that information, they can let you know what the appropriate license will be. Now, the email address for that is classifications with an S at the end, classifications@cslb.ca.gov. Send them an email, let them know, like I mentioned, the scope of work, what type of work you're going to be doing, what type of materials are you going to be using, all of that information, and then they can make a determination on the appropriate classification that you should be applying for. And you can also read our description of classification booklet online. Okay. I checked yes on section 5, question 13, and at the top of the page it says that if you answer yes to any question, you must submit a separate sheet with detailed explanation. What information needs to be on the separate sheet? The question seems pretty self-explanatory. So you'll want to look it over and see exactly what they're asking. You mentioned that one. I think we already answered that one before. That's the same section that you had asked. Section 5, question 13 is pertaining to, are you supervising the project? You want to make sure that you are going to be exercising direct supervision of a project. Does project and if they have any other questions, once the technician receives your application, if they have any other questions, they'll follow up with you. They will give you some time to offer them an explanation, to give you they give you certain days to respond to any questions. So it's not, if they don't have that information, they're not going to automatically deny your application. So make sure you work with your technician and that you're doing it in a timely manner, because they do give you a certain number of days to answer the questions. We talked about that one already. Okay. As an owner builder, is there any other documentation that can be provided as proof other than permits? Permits is really what we go with. We're looking at final inspections. When did the inspections occur? How long did the project take? What kind of scope? What was the scope of the project? But it does have to be something that you can document. If you don't have permits, you're not going to be able to document it, so you wouldn't be able to get any credit for that. Can my customers be the ones to show proof for the 48 months of experience? Yes, if you have clients or customers in the past that know that you have 48 months worth of experience in the last 4 years, within the last 10 years, yes. And let's say one customer can only do 1 year of experience, and maybe you have another customer that can do the other 3 years. You can make copies of that form and have different customers, certify different time frame. As long as it's 48 separate months in the last 10 years, we will take a look at it. On the Form 7065, Section 3, Question 6 asks for the previous CSLB license. If an individual is the RME on the license and is trying to get their own license, do they leave it blank or enter CSLB number they are currently listed on the RME? I would list the number. I'm going to go ahead and list the number. Sorry, that one's very specific. Sound is warped. Yeah, that's why he's not on here anymore. I started the Carpenter Union in 2013. I've been a journeyman for 3 years. I completed my apprenticeship program. Will I still get qualified? So remember, we mentioned you don't want to use education just to squeak by. So we want to make sure that you are able to prove that you have 4 years within the last 10. If you're thinking the apprenticeship is going to give you 1 year of credit, we wouldn't want you to risk applying and then having your application denied because you don't have enough credit. So I would wait till you have 4 years of journeyman level experience that you can prove to go ahead and submit. Sorry, I'm just going through. People are letting us know the sound was bad. Can one person in a company take the exam and when be the experience of the license is held in that company? We talked about that. The person with the experience has to be the one taking the exam. I already have a C36 license and I want to apply for B. We also talked about that. Let's see. We're getting a lot of the same questions asked again. Is the new remodel renovation license limit only $750? I think I read that in the bill. We still don't have that license. It's still in the works. So look for more information on that in the future on our website. I am applying using my own name. I don't have an office right now. Can I use my home address for the application? Yes, you can. You can use your home address on the application. If I have been paid cash for jobs that I worked for the last 4 years of work, does that count as 4 years experience? We will we will consider, we know that a lot of people actually, that's how they get their start. They get their start by cash pay, and that's okay. As long as it's something that you can verify, whether it be us talking to your clients or if you have business associates that are able to certify your work experience, it's the same process. As long as we can look at your work experience, certify, document it, not a problem. We know people are getting paid cash, and that's not a problem. If the majority of my experience is in cabinetry and millwork, can I apply for a B license? Well, that depends. If you want to apply for a B license, you have to have that B experience. It would be 4 years within the last 10. So if you only have cabinetry and millwork experience, no, that wouldn't be the appropriate license for you. Is the 36-month of educational credit for bachelor's dependent on the license class or classification? No. No. What we would do is we would look at your transcripts and then let you know how much experience you would get once we had the transcripts in front of us. Working as a handyman for 10 years, what would be a type of documentation to prove my experience besides getting a certifier? So everybody has to have a certifier. You have to have a certifier no matter what documentation you're going to be providing. So somebody does have to certify your work experience and let us know what type of duties you've been performing for the last 10 years. In addition to that, if you are contacted by a CSLB staff member, then that's when the documentation handout would be helpful to you. We have a handout on our website that lets you know what is acceptable documentation, and you'll want to review that. Okay, so that's all the time we have for questions. We're going to go ahead and move on with our presentation. And thank you all for all your questions. They were really good questions today. If you have any other questions about your application, we encourage you to send an email to this email address here, licensing@cslb.gov. There is somebody from the licensing division that answers those emails. If at some point you need to reschedule your examination or if you have any questions about the exams, you can send an email to exams@cslb.ca.gov. Make sure you include your application number. We've also put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. You can download the presentation on our green banner at the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. If you're watching the archived video of this workshop on our YouTube page, you'll find the link to the presentation down below. We welcome your comments and topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email to social@cslb.ca.gov. We want to give a special thank you to our Public Affairs Office for all of their hard work that they do on these workshops. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractors State License Board. Thank you for watching.